Here we will discuss some of the very significant and very dangerous power asymmetries in our world. Example 11 is taxation. The glaring power asymmetry of taxation can be recognized by simply examining what taxation is. The government takes a certain fraction of a person's income or existing property, and he from whom this money is taken has no ability not to give it. If he refuses to pay, he can be imprisoned or have his property confiscated. He cannot even set conditions on the use of his money. Nor can he, by electing different government officials, substantively reduce his tax burden. Often, his only realistic choice is between a candidate who will raise his taxes substantially and a candidate who will raise them by a slightly smaller amount. Thus, under taxation, the government decides how much money to take from an individual and what that money will be used for. The individual has no input in the matter, and his only safe choice is to hand over the money. Surely, a government possessing such a tremendously asymmetrical power cannot be expected to restrain itself in other instances. Surely a different way can be devised to fund the operations of a government without giving the government such grossly asymmetrical power over the very people whose rights it is supposed to defend. One way to remedy the power asymmetry of taxation is to render all contributions to government voluntary, and give those who contribute a number of votes proportional to their contributions, as I explain in my essay, An Outline and Defense of a Properly Limited Government, which is linked to in the resources section accompanying this presentation. Another approach is to enable the government to accumulate and invest a surplus large enough that the interest on the surplus alone suffices to fund the government's operations. I also explain this approach in my essay titled A Plan for Cutting Big Government. Example 12 of power asymmetries in our world is the global warming scare. Why, despite the findings of hundreds of expert climatologists to the contrary, do panic-level claims regarding the dangers of anthropogenic global warming persist? Because a dramatic power asymmetry exists between those who propagate the global warming alarmism and those who challenge it. The propagators are supported by the influential, well-funded United Nations, numerous politicians such as Al Gore, and a myriad of energy companies who would hope to use the resultant cap-and-trade schemes to enrich themselves, while anti-global warming environmental regulations create barriers to entry for their potential competitors. The global warming skeptics, however, only have the evidence on their side. But when the funding for scientific research and the popularization of scientific discoveries are controlled by an asymmetrically powerful group with a political agenda, evidence is not enough, and the truth does not necessarily win out in the end. Only a comparably powerful network of institutions committed to the defeat of the global warming alarmists' agenda can avert the damage they would wreak. In the resources section accompanying this presentation, I've included a link to videos from the wonderful documentary, The Great Global Warming Swindle. If you're not convinced that the evidence is in fact on the side of the claim that there is no anthropogenic global warming, then I would highly recommend that you examine this documentary. Example 13 of power asymmetries in our world is the public schools. In public schools, a severe power asymmetry exists between the parents and the teachers. The teachers' jobs are typically unionized, and they are protected by their unions against dismissal for virtually any reason. A parent scandalized over what a teacher is doing to his or her children cannot, by complaining, hope to get the teacher dismissed, or even to change how the teacher behaves in the classroom. Furthermore, a parent with children in a public school often cannot move his or her children to a private school, since government schooling has crowded private schools for lower and middle income children out of the market, and many parents cannot afford the more expensive upscale private schools. On the other hand, public school teachers can and frequently do impose demands on parents of the children they teach. With many young children, public school teachers have threatened to accuse their parents of child abuse unless the parents consented to give the children behavior-altering drugs such as Ritalin or Prozac. In some countries, such as Germany, parents who attempt to homeschool their children can be arrested and deprived of custody. The German ban on homeschooling is a clear instance of asymmetrically powerful teachers' unions using government as a means to protect their jobs from competition by knowledgeable parents. Having seen an abundance of various examples of both power symmetries and asymmetries, we will next explore the growth of power asymmetries and how to stop such growth.